Remember that we have a test next week, and our next meeting, we have a test review. You are supposed to have studied already and arrive to the virtual classroom prepared to have a discussion with me. And if I ask questions and I don't get answers, then I'm not going to start giving answers that people are not asking questions about. You understand what I mean? So come prepared and bring your doubts, and I will gladly help you out. And we will have the test on forms on Thursday of next week. There will be a window period of time for you to take the test, complete it, and submit it. Okay. So today's lesson, the one that's in the LMS, is informational text, main idea, audience, and purpose. And at the end of each collection, and this is the end of the collection, we usually have a section that is dedicated to nonfiction. Remember, nonfiction deals with factual realities, not with the imagination. And why? Well, because it is a statistical fact that most of what you and I read on a daily basis, even if you're not a reader, is nonfiction. And most nonfiction takes the form of informational texts. So, since we deal with that so much, it stands to reason that that is something that we should master. We need to understand informational text enough to master it and manipulate it well on a daily basis. Um, when we talk about informational texts, they can come from two sources. Text can come from what we call a primary source. A primary source is one that expresses the author's experiences, opinions, and ideas. Remember that in the history class we were talking about the cronistas. And the difference between a cronista and an historiador is that the cronista experience firsthand the historical event and the historiador did not. Well, same thing here. It's the same thing. O cronista is giving you primary source information. They did not ask anyone. They saw, they heard, they felt, they smelled, they tasted. Now, secondary source is the opposite of that. Uh, you have to ask, you have to research, you have to maybe interview people, and that filter is there. Okay? I'm not saying that's a bad thing because most of the information that we gather comes from a secondary source. But I see a lot of value in having a primary source. So that's something you have to evaluate. Um, when you deal with informational text and you're doing some research, like in this project that you turned in today, you had to do something called synthesis. You have to synthesize because sometimes you have to like get your information from different sources and find a way to put all that stuff together into one piece of information. So what does synthesize mean? Does anybody know what synthesis means? Silence. Okay. But let me ask you another question. Mr. Quinones, let me ask you a question. You're a very analytical person. What does it mean to analyze? What's analysis? Mr. Caban, what about you? What do you understand by the word analyze? The what? Okay, well, analyzing can help you know about something. It can help you, but analysis is something else. Um, Ms. Ruiz, what do you say? What? Can you say that again, please? Slower. A detailed examination of. Okay. Let me ask you a question, boys. This is for the boys. Boys, how many of you ever had one of these cars? I mean, the games, the toys you guys have today, your cell phone or an Xbox or something. But in my day, and when I was raising up my kids, we had actual toys. You know, like a car, like a truck, like an action figure, like a Barbie, like you name it. Okay, there was like more variety back then. Have you guys ever played with a one of these wind up cars that you wind them up, you put them on the floor, and they run away? Boys, any of you? Okay, even the girls have one of those. Incredible. Okay, question: did you ever break them up to examine them inside because you were wondering, I wonder how this can move? Girls, let me ask you a question. Girls, how many of you have dolls? Okay, question. Would that you read my mind because that's that's exactly the question I was going to ask you. Do you ever rip their arms out of their sockets and their legs in their head to see if they had like innards, like tripas inside? Really? Yes. But was it an accident, or did you do it on purpose because you wanted to see if she had something inside, like a pumping heart or lungs or whatever? Okay, well, I think that if you have done that, I think that is the perfect example of what analysis means. When you analyze something, you break it to understand it better. Like, for example, in the field of medicine, you take a corpse, a dead body, and you start chopping it into pieces and putting them under a microscope. What for? To understand how the human body works and maybe develop some medicines or vaccines or treatments to help people. That's what analysis means. Every time you break up something to understand it better, that's what analyzing means. Think in your doll. You wanted to understand your doll better. So what do you rip her arms and her legs and her head. Or boys, you wanted to understand the car better. What did you do? You broke it into pieces, not because you were like some crazy kid. It's because you wanted to understand it better, right? Right? Right. Synthesis is the opposite of analysis. When you're synthesizing, you're not breaking something up, but you're gathering different things, not breaking up one thing to have a better understanding, but you're taking many different things and putting them together to get a better understanding. The example will be your project. You wanted to have a better idea of who this author was. What did you do? Well, you got information from here, there, and there. And you took all that information, you looked at it, and you had like a more complete picture of this person. And now I understand this person better because I read this here, and then there was this other strand of information over here that was not necessarily in this part, but I put all that together and I have a better picture. And that's what synthesizing means. This is something practical. This is something that you do. So analyzing, remember, is breaking apart to understand something, and synthesizing is putting things together to understand that thing. They're opposites, but they both work towards the same goal. What's the goal? A better understanding and comprehension of whatever topic you're dealing with. All right. So when you're sometimes people read different newspaper because they want to read a particular news, and they read what this reporter wrote and that other reporter wrote. Oh, this reporter mentioned this thing that this guy mentioned over here, and now you have a more complete picture of what really happened if they were talking the truth, of course. So that's what synthesizing is. Synthesizing refers to uniting strands of information to gain a better understanding of things, the opposite of analysis, which is the cutting of well, no, no, cutting is the wrong word. It's basically the disassembling of a thing to understand it better. We disassemble it. When you read, we said in our last collection that when you're reading informational text, you have to find the main idea. You have to consider how the information fits together. You ask yourself, what's the main point that the author is trying to convey? That's something that you need to ask yourself. Okay, and when you're writing, because you also write, one thing that an author has to decide before they put all this information together and share it is, who am I writing this for? And as you know, if you've ever read magazines, you know that there are magazines that are made for men. There are magazines that are made for women because we're different. There are magazines that are made for old people. like AARP, right? Or there are magazines that are made for younger people, like Tiger Beat, because old people and young people are different, right? So, in spite of our similarities, we have our differences. So, you have to determine who's the audience. Who am I writing this for? And when you read something, you have to understand. You should have an understanding of who the article is being written for. Sometimes we're writing for a general audience. Sometimes we're writing for people that like technology. Sometimes we're writing for people that love gossip, right? Sometimes they write articles for people that like mechanics or politics because different people have different interests. Or for a consumer, because maybe you're reading a magazine called Consumer Report because you want to buy a laptop or you want to buy a big screen LCD TV now, a new one, and you want to know what's the best bargain, which is the best possible way for you to spend your money because we're consumers, right? So we have to consider the audience. We need to know the main idea. We need to know the source if it's primary or secondary, and there's also a purpose, the why. When you're considering and fitting information together, when you're reading something or writing something, there's a purpose. Why does the author want for people to know this? Usually, there are, uh, I think it's three different purposes to write. You can write to inform, you can write to entertain, or you can write to pay homage, to pay your respects. Okay, so those are the reasons why people write something. For example, look at your Historia de Puerto Rico textbook. What's the purpose of that writing? Is it entertaining, paying homage, or is it informing? It's informing, exactly. It's informing. It's informational text. Okay, so you're going to be comparing how arguments, ideas, and experiences in each source are similar or different. You're going to find similarities and you're going to find differences. You're going to compare and you're going to contrast. And then you're going to find out what did you learn by doing this. You're going to be using a synthesis chart in the next two articles that you're going to be reading. Article 1 and Article 2, you're going to determine who the audience, who is it written for, the purpose, why was it written? Was it written to inform, entertain, or pay homage? What's the main idea? The main idea, the central idea, we discussed that um, in our last the last lesson that had to do with informational text, which was the last lesson of collection one, and then similarities and differences. You can name one similarity and one difference. That should be enough. Okay, Mr. Quinones, you had a question. Okay. So what are you reading today? You're reading two short articles. They're magazine articles. The first one is titled "An Interview with Dave Eggers," a short interview. And then you're going to read another small article titled "Teaching Class." I'm sorry, Teaching Chess and Life. And you're going to find this material in pages 199 to 206. And you're going to synthesize these two articles in the chart. There's an assessment on the applying your skills section that needs to be done. That's in page 207. So the assessment today will be the chart and the applying your skills section. That's today's work. And that will be that, guys. Any question, any doubt, any concern, anything you want to tell me? No. So are we good? Okay, so guys, please find a way to make sure that you uploaded the work. Remember that each particular work that you upload has to be uploaded to the particular and specific lesson it belongs to. Some students have been dumping all their lessons in one place, and unfortunately, we have to remove it, and the student has to re-upload it again. So if you don't want to work twice, Do things well from the beginning, and you will only have to work once. Okay. So, guys, yes, Mr. Kavan. Yeah, I know, and you know what? And I won't be able to because I got to run now. I have another meeting in 3 minutes. So, guys, but I see that only one person is absent today because I see 23 of you. Thank you. Okay, so guys, you all take care. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your long weekend. I'm going to work in my long weekend because this is a never-ending thing. And I'll be seeing you next week. All right. And when I see you, we need you to be ready for the test review. So come prepared. Have a great weekend. God bless you.